My name is Olo and welcome back to another first look at a new game, this time Remnant From the Ashes. A looter shooter, a Souls-like, and perfect for co-op play. Speaking of co-op play, I'm here. Alright.
What?
The first thing you do?
Stop making fun of my fucking character's voice.
It was pathetic.
Fuck you! But look, that's the Eiffel Tower.
Is it? No.
Like, it's the fucking Look at it.
Does that look like an Eiffel Tower?
No, it's not, but it had gaps in the bottom.
It didn't have gaps.
It did! That was cool, though.
Wow, look, the Eiffel Tower, Josh, we're in Paris.
Honestly, fuck you, man.
If it wasn't for Rage, I would have had no idea that this was totally set in Paris. I've been a long-time fan of Souls and Souls-like games, so when I noticed this one, I was quite excited. We have a good setup for a story in a post-apocalyptic world covered with big old horrifying monsters, and we, as the players, are remnants of humanity, trying to explore the world alone, or with up to 2 friends in co-op. You'll be facing hordes of enemies as you progress through the world, and, quote from their website, epic bosses to try take back the world. Getting right into the meat and bones of it, the gameplay is fantastic. At its very core, they've managed to create a satisfying combination of melee and gun-based combat that is smooth as butter. You could be zoomed in, popping heads with your gun, dashing around enemies' swing, and instantly start cleaving at their backs with your melee weapon, thanks to the simple but genius system that they have. Simply aim down your sights and attack. Cool, now you're firing the gun that you've got equipped. Let go of aim, and you'll instantly melee instead of shooting when you attack. It's literally that simple. You don't have to awkwardly swap from gun to weapon, then attack. It's all ready to go whenever you want, immediately, and that makes for complete control over your character and the gameplay, which, as I said, is fantastic. Then you've got the special abilities that kind of flesh things out for you. At the start of the game, you get to choose between 3 classes: the Hunter, the Ex-Cultist, and the Scrapper. Each one comes with its own set of starting weapons and archetype ability. The Hunter gets the Mark, marking enemies that allows the Hunter and the teammates to see targets through walls, while also increasing crit chance on the marked targets. The Ex-Cultist gets the Mender's Aura, which is basically a little green circle on the ground that heals everyone who stands in it. And finally, the Scrapper, who has Hotshot, aka Fire Bullets. As you progress further, you're going to unlock more mods to use new abilities, like the Rattleweed mod, shooting a projectile that spawns a weed that then draws aggro from all nearby enemies, which is extremely effective in boss fights to round up all the adds and boss for clean killing. These abilities must be modded into your weapons, so you're starting with a limit of 2 at a time, allowing you to pick and choose with your team who's bringing what and why. And you do all of this at the hub, which is filled with people who might sell you useful items like anti-poison, heal over time pots, bandages, or even help upgrade your gear. So it's all very important to keep your eye on this, because the game can get quite hard at times. As you head out into the city, you're going to find open streets filled with root monsters. We've got melee men, we've got gun guys, we've got sword soldiers, we've got blob boys in regular or explosive version, and we've got crossbow. Yeah, they do some nasty damage. In our experience, the variety of enemies seem pretty simplistic. In general, anytime you'd face a ranged enemy, well, then you would kill them first, and then you would deal with the melee fighters who are chasing you while you've been kiting them in the meantime. That's mostly how all packs of enemies will play out, but now and then you will find a mini-boss. You'll know when you found one of these because it makes this delightful sound.
That was the sound of something bad.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Ah, behind you. Holy shit, turn around.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Holy
Oh my
shit.
lord.
Some of them can look pretty deadly. These sword and scythe guys in particular, who are blocking or just immune to bullets somehow, you've got to bait out their attacks or shoot them in the back. These definitely made exploration scary though, because if you were caught out on your own with one of these coming at you and you're not prepared, it'll kill you in a blink, which is very fun. So, why are we actually doing this? Why are we fighting these monsters? Well, the narrative of post-apocalyptic monsters you're trying to clear out is a reasonable setup, right? But the issue is, it's executed so painstakingly slowly that it's actually really hard to enjoy or even pay attention to the story. The voice acting itself is pretty dreadful, and the dialogue takes so long to get through that I found myself skipping chunks of unnecessary lines just to make progress.
Come in. So, what brings you up? Well, sure.
Okay, so I'm currently just watching you have a conversation with him, and I assume you're choosing stuff, but for me it's just his dialogue is spazzing.
Can you see the skips and stuff?
Yeah. I believe it mostly went wrong in execution. An overly strong desire to flesh out this world with lore and information that went a bit too far, so it's kind of hard to enjoy. If you're not careful, you'll make no progress with the gameplay in hours of play if you actually listen to everything and read all the notes that are everywhere. If you look at a Souls game, yes, there's big world-building lore to experience and enjoy, but it's more like it's drip-fed to you through item descriptions and small interactions with characters that you'll find in the world who you rarely find, and most of all, your experience in that world, the things you see. Meanwhile, Remnant rams it down your throat with big chunks of awkwardly voice-acted piles of lines and lore, and simply it's too much. And even the things they say come out way too slowly. And randomly, parts of it will be unskippable for some reason. I personally really enjoy lore and stories in my games, but this one just felt too hard to get into, pretty much entirely because of execution. Maybe I'm too critical about it, but I found it really bad. As far as stories go, I might not be into it, but there's no way you can't say these visuals are great. The whole vibe is killer. The monsters themselves look fantastic, these living tree guys coming at you, how it's affected the buildings and the surroundings of the areas you travel through. I mean, look at this lady. She's got a tree backpack. That's cool. Good for her. What does she actually, keep in there? The levels themselves are actually procedurally generated, so no playthrough should be the same. So that's good replayability, right? But we found ourselves wondering if we'd already been where we most definitely hadn't, because it all certainly looked the same. Look, we're on this random street, now we're in a sewer, now we're in a subway. Cool, free environments, totally different. Now we're in a different sewer, but I'm not sure this is a different one. Isn't the circle room exactly the same as the circle room we're in before? No, look, this one has a dead end on one side. Now that's different. I tease, but seriously, it does look very samey. As we progressed, we made it to this giant tower, you know, the one that Josh said was the Eiffel Tower for some reason, and then suddenly we're in this big Labyrinth Tower, and then in this desert section with entirely new enemies who had bone armor. I mean, where was that in the big chunk of gameplay we just had in hours before? This is actually different. So maybe the start is just really slow and they overly used the same stuff a bit much. Maybe it's a pacing thing. It's hard to say in our first impressions. What I can tell you is that it's all laid out in little sections where you progress a chunk of the area and then you'll make it to a bonfire. I mean, a red crystal. It's 100% different. And these work as checkpoints. You reset the enemies in the area, but it's totally different to a bonfire. You return to these crystals when you die, but weirdly you don't seem to lose anything. No souls to lose when you die means there's no real punishment other than, oh, well now I've got to run back to where I was again, which honestly, I didn't really mind that much. Eventually, at the end of a level, you will come across a literal fog wall and face off against that level's boss. The first two bosses we fought were sadly pretty underwhelming. First, Shroud, who seems to have moved away from Twitch streaming to become a crossbow, will fire shots off at you to dodge, or special magic shots that you have to quickly sprint away from as they come from above. There. AoE, keep moving. Hey, there we go. Shadewood. And then there was Gorefist, a sword soldier, who spawned explosive ads and tried to hit us with his sword, which was not cool, Gorefist. I thought we were chill. We pretty much cheesed this guy by spamming the Rattleweed ability, drawing aggro from all the mobs and Gorefist himself, and just kind of shooting them from safety. Alright, that plan was ridiculous. We were just standing there shooting him. And then, instead of another mini-boss with ads and one extra special ability, we did go against our first real boss. This big Cthulhu-looking Ent. It uses big shockwave slams, poison gas, literally missiling bomb boys at you as well. This Ent was actually very fun and an interesting fight. Our concern before this point was that all the bosses were basically just the mini-bosses with one new mechanic and a lot more health, which was very underwhelming. But a quick look online shows us some different pictures and more interesting looking named bosses, so I do expect more from them in the future. But each time you do beat a boss or encounter an important NPC, you'll unlock a new trait. Traits functions as passive bonuses, so you'll get points to slam into these traits every time you level up or maybe discover a trait book. I put all of mine into HP, and Rage put all of his into something like Wisdom, allowing him to spam his special abilities a lot quicker, but totally die in one hit, which was always funny. However, it was really useful when he played like a god and avoided all damage, because we could spam his abilities. As we progressed, we unlocked more traits as we went, like reduced range damage and faster reloads speed. There's actually weapon and armor crafting in the game too, which we haven't quite found yet. I honestly didn't have any issue with the gear that I had and the weapons I had, you know, just making them statistically stronger as I upgraded them. But I definitely would have appreciated some options and choice in the weapons, some variety past the original ones we get at the start, but we didn't get that in the hours we played. But there you have it. That's my first impressions of Remnant. It's got some great pros, like the smooth combat, the interesting visuals, and the super fun gameplay for co-op, but also some unfortunate negatives, such as the poorly executed story, the repetitive level design, and, well, the lacking in variety of gear. I'm unsure if I can tell you to buy this game or to miss it. It's kind of a mixed bag of a game. I'm glad it exists, and I think someone who's looking for a new take on a Souls-like experience, specifically for co-op play with a friend or even two, is going to have a great time with this game. I just don't know if I could recommend it for solo play exclusively. It just doesn't have an interesting story to hold it up on its own, unless, you know, you really like the gameplay exclusively. As an IP, it has great promise, so if Gunfire Games can learn from the feedback on this game and what they've learned making this game, they'll be able to produce a brilliant follow-up game or updates to this one. What do you think of Remnant? About a £31 price tag or thereabouts $40, you can pick it up on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I will see you next time.